The Logitech G Pro X Superlight has been the face of competitive esports gaming mice for a very long time. In fact, some of the competitive esports tournaments that exist out there have had more than 50% usage across all of the players that have partaken in those tournaments. Since late 2020, it has since seen a refresh of the Superlight 2 in 2024. So how is it positioned in the market now as the G Pro X Superlight 1? The glorious PC gaming race company, on the other hand, has seen a very different experience in the gaming mouse market. The glorious Model O Pro has been regarded as one of Glorious's top mice back in 2023, though it was shrouded by a quiet launch with a group buy, something that was very unreceived by a lot of its consumer base. So how does it hold up to today's standards? Let's talk about this a little bit more. Let's start to compare these two mice. The Logitech G Pro X Superlight comes in at 60 grams from a weight perspective, whereas the glorious Model O Pro comes in at 57 grams. As you can imagine, a 3 gram difference is not all that massive. In terms of feeling, they're actually very comparable. I would give a slight edge to the G Pro X Superlight in terms of overall feeling. The reason for that is because the G Pro X Superlight actually is a larger shape. It has a much larger hump than the glorious Model O Pro. In terms of in-hand feeling, it feels less dense than the glorious Model O Pro. As far as coating is concerned, the G Pro X Superlight actually has like a grippier basic plastic, something that you would find on other gaming mice, but maybe a small upgrade to it. In some ways, I would say it's uninspiring, and I've seen better coatings in general on the market. The glorious Model O Pro, on the other hand, almost has this chalky feeling coating combined with like some form of matte plastic. It's almost as if you put it somewhere between, I would say, the G Pro X Superlight as well as a Razer Viper Mini. Overall, for dry hands, I would say the G Pro X Superlight wins out, whereas if your hands tend to get a little bit clammy as you game a little bit more, the Model O Pro wins out in that respect. Just while we're talking a little bit more about hand feel, let's talk about skates. The G Pro X Superlight actually comes with these larger fake PTFE skates on the top and bottom. Overall, they have this like very slow and low quality feeling. They also make a lot of noise when I'm moving the mouse along on my cloth mouse pad. As you can tell, I didn't actually like those skates very much, so I've subbed them out for AliExpress dot skates for a faster feel. The glorious Model O Pro is very different. Again, those skates are not perfect, but they're better for sure. I really didn't feel a need to sub these out for any aftermarket skates. Of course, you can do so after the fact, but these seemed fine out of the box. As far as switches are concerned, we'll talk a little bit more about main clicks, side buttons, and scroll and click as well. The Logitech G Pro X Superlight uses Omron 20 millions. This is a classic mechanical switch that has been used in a lot of different gaming mice. The Model O Pro, on the other hand, kind of seemed to follow a trend when it came out in 2023. It uses KLGM 8.0s. I know in 2025 we're kind of battling this like mechanical versus optical switch battle in many respects. Both of these mice having come out 2 years at the very least before this year, both use mechanical switches. From a performance perspective, I would give a slight edge to the G Pro X Superlight, and this is proven by a lot of different YouTubers and content creators that are out there on the internet. Just as far as latency is concerned, the G Pro X Superlight wins. Is that really noticeable? I wouldn't say so. I think from a consumer feel, a lot of these end up being just very similar. As far as click feeling, I would say that on my Logitech G Pro X Superlight, the right click ends up feeling a little bit more hollow than what I would be used to, and there is a difference between the left and the right click here. The Model O Pro, on the other hand, the clicks end up feeling a lot more consistent, and there actually is like a little bit more of a solid click, albeit a little bit higher pitch than the G Pro X Superlight. As far as scroll wheel is concerned, they actually aren't bad. The G Pro X Superlight uses a little bit more of a silent middle click with defined steps, whereas the Model O Pro clicks are a little bit more consistent. They're a little bit quieter on the scroll, but a louder middle click. Both are perfectly usable in game for me. I would say on the side buttons, they are a little bit better on the glorious Model O Pro. There is some post-travel, but it's really not horrible. There's a nice snap, I would say, once the click actually actuates. On the G Pro X Superlight, on the other hand, it feels very spongy. It kind of has this like non-linear click feeling to it. I don't know how else to describe it. There's a lot of post-travel, and even so, especially on this backside button, I can actually push it into the side of the mouse if I'm really pressing in here. As far as switch feel is concerned, I would absolutely give the win to the glorious for this, overall switch feel. Since we're talking about it from the perspective of a consumer, let's talk a little bit more about quality. The Model O Pro has had some questionable build quality, especially since its launch. Some people were reporting horrible rattles, flexing top shells, and flexing side shells as well. It has since seemed to be really ironed out. My copy really exhibits none of these things. The G Pro X Superlight has been praised for its high quality through its lifetime. From a structural integrity perspective, I can really agree with this. Shell doesn't really seem to flex at all as I press in on it. There's kind of this like rock solid feeling to the shell, even though it's a plastic mouse if we're being honest here. I would say no flexing on the sides really, no flexing on the top, and the bottom shell feels fine as well. So I think like as a consumer, the safer bet is the G Pro X Superlight just from a reputation news perspective. From the consumer's perspective, I think the safer bet is the G Pro X Superlight if, quality overall is very important to you. Though, if we're being candid here, I would say both mice really serve you fine. And I would challenge you if you're questioning that conclusion, like when was the last time that the tech in a mouse really failed you? To be honest, I think the concerns of both of these mice really lie more so in the structural integrity of the shells as opposed to the tech failing. I'm really confident that both these mice actually would be good for years to come. Let's talk a little bit more about performance. I actually think the G Pro X Superlight wins this. This is also backed up by a lot of different content creators and folks who have tested performance and latency numbers. Again, I would say, going back to the earlier argument, differences are not as noticeable, especially from a human being's perspective. As far as mouse things matter, I would say shape suitability is probably one of the top things that we really want to be paying attention to. So let's talk about it. What is the shape difference really between these two mice, and what suits who? Again, a lot of this is purely personal preference. I'll try to give you both the objective side of this as well as the things that matter to me. The G Pro X Superlight, I think a lot of people could tell you, it's an extremely safe design fit for medium to large hands in all grip styles. The hump is, again, really towards that middle of the mouse, and it measures around 4 centimeters tall. The hump profile is really elongated, especially relative to other mice. So aggressive grip styles in general I think will likely be dissuaded. There are mild comfort grooves on the buttons. You might be able to see them from this angle. The sides are extremely flat. From the underside, I think this makes it a little bit more evident. There's very little character to them. From a shape perspective, I think the G Pro X Superlight is kind of like a green salad. It's just like your vanilla shape that you can think of. In hand, it kind of feels like you're holding a cylinder with flattened sides. Kind of like you had your buddy just take a hammer and just hammer in the sides as much as they could. The glorious Model O Pro. This shape, albeit, is a copycat of the Zowie FK1 shape, but that also means that there's a little bit more character to it, especially relative to the G Pro X Superlight. The shape is known for its low profile design and its seemingly elongated dimensions. The hump is also towards the middle of the mouse with a gradual slope, but it peaks at a much lower point, especially relative to the G Pro X Superlight. What does this mean? It kind of gives a much smaller feel relative to the G Pro X Superlight. There are definitely deeper comfort grooves in the buttons, especially relative to the G Pro. This is honestly a change that I really appreciate. There are some mice on the market that have really, gone off the deep end, especially with regards to deeper comfort grooves in the buttons. That's actually a change that I appreciate. I'm not sure if a lot of other people share that opinion, but I think deeper comfort grooves are actually a really nice thing. As far as, shape character, I think the sides are really what makes the FK shape what it is. The grip width ends up getting very thin, especially, despite this being a bigger mouse. The rear flare is wider, so you can get a more lateral palm support if that's something that you're looking for. The front flare is definitely evident, but it's definitely less than the rear flare. Despite having small to medium hands, I actually don't mind this shape at all. I feel in control of it, especially when I'm aiming, especially paired with the lightweight. Now, so for a basic conclusion, of the shapes, I would say the G Pro X is an all-rounder. It's a really safe shape for a lot of different hand sizes. The glorious Model O Pro, I would say, is fingertip grip and claw grip focused, assuming that you don't palm claw, for those medium to large size hand sizes. Again, that's the general conclusion. What about for me? I have a small to medium sized hand, and I tend to palm claw in an aggressive fashion. In this case, it's not really a close competition. I would say the glorious Model O Pro takes the cake on this end. A lot of this is largely a function of having the smaller grip width, and smaller in some cases, is better. Now, if the G Pro X Superlight wasn't as safe on the sides, in other words, if its side, curvature seemed to indicate a little bit more of the glorious Model O Pros, this might be a closer competition. Let's now talk about price. This is actually a very interesting point of the video. The Logitech G Pro X Superlight MSRP'd at $150, and the Model O Pro MSRP'd at $100. Those prices look very different now on the used market in 2025. I got my G Pro X Superlight for $43 without a dongle and bought a separate dongle for $15. The glorious Model O Pro I got for $17 base and got an $8 shipping fee. Most Model O Pros seem to be going for that $25 to $30 at this point, and again, that's August of 2025. So what's my recommendation? Both mice are absolutely fantastic in the market. In fact, I think most of the market is chasing fads, but wireless mice have been so good for a very long time. Old mice are being slept on, such as these two, because they've been out for so long. For a safe pick, I think the $58 G Pro X Superlight is really hard to compete with. It's had a tried and true build quality, and it's a shape that most people can really get along with. It might not be my endgame shape, and it might not be yours either, but it can get you pretty close if you have medium-sized hands. The Glorious Model 8 Pro is a bit more of a wild card, I would say. Definitely comes in cheaper, but I personally think that this is a steal for the price that I paid. Quality-wise, I would put this much higher than any other $20 to $25 wireless mouse. If shape isn't as important to you, but you want a very high-quality product, I think the G Pro X Superlight is your pick. If you have similar hands to me, again, I'm 17.5 by 9.5 centimeters, and you want something that would suit that claw to fingertip grip style better, I think the Model 8 Pro is a decent place to start. There are absolutely better shapes out there, and obviously for small to medium claw grip, there's a whole bunch of options that exist for us. But the shape is safe enough to pull off if this is something that you want. We'll talk about those shapes in another video.